The BIPOC Coach Collective proudly presents Elevate and Celebrate. This is a podcast to showcase our members, dive deeper into their journeys, and express who they are into the world. Our mission is to curate a brave and authentic space for coaches to connect and to elevate our voices globally in the coaching profession. Learn more about us at bipoccc.org. Your story matters, your voice matters. Let's start the show. All right, welcome to this month's episode of Elevate and Celebrate. We have Jonathan Gutierrez coming up. He's going to share his story about coaching, somatic awareness, identity. We dive into so many different topics and so many different ideas, especially around men and vulnerability. And what I think you're going to learn from him is really this powerful question that he asks over and over. And it's simply this: what does your body need right now? And for you listening, for you watching, I think that's going to make a massive difference, a massive shift in how you operate in the world and who you're being. And he's going to be a guest facilitator for our collective Friday, June 9th. So if you want to get an experience of that, I encourage you to go to bipoccc.org, become a premier member or an executive member, and you'll have access to his training and him leading a workshop for us. And what I want to share with you is a quick announcement, right? This is the bulletin board of sorts. The facilitation calls, this is going to be the last one that we're going to be doing for the summer. So we're taking July and August off. So if you're a member, please listen closely. July and August, there won't be facilitation calls. There won't be monthly networking calls, because we as a leadership team want to demonstrate the best way possible by leading by example. That we need a break. We need to ask what our body needs. Our body needs breaks. Our bodies need to rest. Our families need our attention. Not to say that we're giving all the attention to the collective and ignoring people, but it's a way to connect. It's a way to slow down. It's a way to recharge and rejuvenate. And the best way that we can help our members do that is by demonstrating it ourselves. So this is the announcement. So this month we'll have our facilitation call with Jonathan, leading that on the 9th. Last Friday of this month, we'll have our networking call. We'll take a break for July and August. We'll resume back in September, fully charged up, ready to go and rock out for the rest of this year. So all that said and done, tap into this episode, enjoy, listen, and see what you can find about yourself in his words. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Welcome to this latest and greatest episode of Elevate and Celebrate. I'm here with Jonathan Gutierrez, aka JG, Johnny Blaze. Ain't a damn thing change. And I'll never say that again, because I called you Johnny, and I don't think you ever go by that. But man, it's great to see you. Great to have you on our program. So thank you first and foremost for creating some time with us.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Yeah, so you've been in our community for a little while, and we're gonna get into all that about how you kind of found us and just your journey. But I'm really curious, about you, about Jonathan. Like, tell us about you.
Yeah. So my dad is Filipino, my mom is Cuban. They were both born in their respective countries and then came to the US, and I was born here in the US in South Florida. And so that's where I grew up. I grew up in Florida, went to college there too. My college training is as a mechanical engineer. And so I did that for a while, and I still do that part-time coaching, trying to move the needle more towards full-time coaching. That's the end goal. But I'm first generation US, and now I live in Tucson, Arizona. Some of my hobbies include rock climbing, spending a lot of time out in nature, and then my passions, I have a big passion for self-growth, for learning about myself, for learning about, the universe and spirituality. And so I spend a lot of time meditating, doing yoga, going to like retreats and ceremonies and things like that. Let's see. I think that covers a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And to peel back some of the layers, right? These two different backgrounds, right? Philippines, Cuba. Like, tell me
Hmm.
about that as like the blend of these two cultures and like what you've noticed or what that influence has been for you.
Yeah, it's a great question. And something I thought about more and more as I get older, but it's been really fun, I think, to have these like be 50-50, split. And they're both island countries, so I think I have some of that in my blood for sure. And I think being part of, like you said, two different cultures. I think so. One of the things that I've gained the most out of that, and then also living in the US, is like adaptability. It's almost like I can join different groups of people, that have different backgrounds that may not even be, Filipino or Cuban, but it's like I can meld and be adaptable in that, like socially adaptable, but then also adaptable like in hardships or life or whatever. It's like I'm kind of like an in-between person. Yeah, and I think there's some real big strengths to that. There's also some weaknesses to that, like finding my own identity and like being true to myself. And so, yeah, but I think adaptability is one of the main strengths that I've gotten from that. Yeah. And then also just richness of culture, like I get to eat Filipino food and Cuban food and make both myself. And yeah.
Or I'm gonna make Thanksgiving really uncomfortable for you right now. What's the preferred dish? Like whose side of the table are we going?
Yeah, my mom is the cook of the house. She was the cook growing up, so we ate a lot more Cuban food. Yeah, growing up. Yeah, and so that's still my preferred appetite, Some black beans and rice, plátanos and yuca. Yeah.
So to the Filipino folks listening or anyone listening, this is not an attack on y'all. We love you.
Yeah,
We
love you
appreciate it.
too.
We just have our preferred taste, right? That no, that's awesome. And I love what you shared about kind of being an in-betweener and just for me as I relate to that, where I grew up in New York, I grew up in a neighborhood of a really blended culture of a lot of obviously I'm black, so black household, I had white neighbors, Hispanic neighbors, like a real nice melting pot of different individuals. And then school wise, I went to predominantly white schools, Catholic schools, so being maybe one of two, three faces that look like mine in the room. So
Mhm.
these two worlds balancing. So I hear you where you say that identity piece, right? Of like really finding out who you are, being true to yourself. And I'm interested in learning as you continue to grow and develop that, what have been the most important things you've learned about yourself that have helped you succeed in the things that have maybe even gotten in your way at times?
Oh, yeah. What a question.
Yeah.
Um,
These are softball questions, right? These
yeah, yeah. Let me take a breath here. Um, hmm. I mean, what's coming up first for me, I think is the best way to answer this question because I could think about it for a while, is through my meditation practice, it's a big part of my spirituality now and how I learn about myself and learn how to move through the world. And I think, there's times where I can meditate and just like feel like that center point, in my body, that like core of me, and connecting to that piece of me. Then when I want to make decisions out in in real world, or I have this decision to make in my coaching career or whatever, it's like, does this path feel right or this path feel right? I can spend a moment and breathe into that center part of me, and like see, okay, what does that part of me want me to do? What is the decision? What's the information there for me? And then use that to help facilitate, how I move through the world. And yeah, and I think moving from that place is like my truth. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. What I hear from what you just shared there is no matter what you want to label it or call it, you have a strong connection to whatever this intelligence is, this source, right? And using that as a guide.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So with with that in mind, right, you're going to be leading our group in not only just a practice, but an awareness and experience of what you do with somatic awareness. So I'd love for you to touch on that, because as I asked you that question before, I saw you like you went into your body for a second, like you tapped in like real time. So I love to see that implemented. So I would love for you to share, you know,
Mhm.
what it is, and what you're going to be creating with us.
Yeah, I can give a quick background here of like how I came into somatics. Maybe that would be helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, it'll just, yeah, just a quick taster is like, like 7+ years ago, I kind of started this journey of connecting to myself and my emotions and my body, my somatic body. And I went to a retreat, a tantric yoga retreat, which is a very like body-based yoga. And they had this practice that's like, okay, connect to your emotions and like check in and ask yourself, what emotions am I feeling right now? And I would do this practice back then, and I didn't get anything. I didn't get any answers. All I got was like confusion or like numbness.
Yeah.
And then I would talk to the teacher, and I kept working with the teacher afterwards, like one on one, of like, how do I do this? And he's like, keep practicing. And he'd give me practices, to do every day. And slowly over time, like that answer, changed, or grew, or I could feel two emotions, and now then I could feel five, and now I can feel a lot. And just like you said, I can close my eyes and touch in pretty quickly. And so, it was a long process of learning and healing and growing for me. And now that's kind of what I'm sharing, is this all I've practiced. And then, I trained at the Mindfulness Coaching School, which is a very like mindful, meditative based coaching school. And that really aligned with this somatic coaching that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I guess that's some background. And then leading into your question, um, let's see. Yeah, the process of somatic awareness, reconnecting with our bodies, being able to ask our bodies, what does my body need right now? What do I feel right now? And then just like you said, using that intelligence source to as information to like choose where we move in the world. Um, I think that can lead to a lot of flow, a lot of wisdom, a lot of clarity in people's lives. Yeah, and then the other piece that's really closely connected to that I think is necessary is that same piece of acceptance. Like when you go in and you feel what emotions am I feeling, if that acceptance piece isn't there, then you can just like stir yourself up. It's like, oh, I'm feeling frustrated. Oh, I'm frustrated that I'm feeling frustrated. And so we have to go in and feel the frustration with acceptance without judging it and so those two pieces are really intertwined, and that's kind of what I help people learn and teach. And then, we can use that technique to like do anything in life, right? Like change an eating habit, change an exercise habit, or like find a new job, or, a life transition. It's all from that place of the somatic awareness and acceptance. And yeah, so I could keep rambling and go into the workshop if you want, or if you have another question.
No, I definitely have some more questions, because I'm really interested, just to go into this place right now, right? This space of 7 years ago, you go through this experience, you start this journey, and you didn't quite get it, like not the start. From what I hear, it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, you talk to the teacher, hey, you got to practice this, do this. I'm interested in wondering or thinking about, like, what do you see as far as the difference from like that initial point of like not connecting to it, to where you are right now and where you're going to continue to go to.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a lot of it is practice. It's like if we think about it from like the point of view of like learning any new skill, like
Mm.
I don't know. I don't play baseball, but we could use like a baseball metaphor. I'm like someone's going up to like hit, a pitch or whatever. It's like the very first time you step up to the plate, you're not gonna like hit a home run. You're gonna like miss a lot, and I think it's a process of like, you can think of it as a process of like neural pathways being created. From
Right.
like the mind to the body's senses. That's one way to think about it. And so I think it is just practice and repetition with a little bit of structure.
Yeah.
And that just helps bring in that neural pathways. It's like, okay, I can go in and say like 7 years ago, I could ask myself, what does my heart feel like? And I just really couldn't, um, answer that because I didn't have that neural pathway connected strong enough to feel what my heart feels like. You know, it's the same as like feeling your hand, you know, it's like, what does my hand feel like? And then ask yourself, you know, what does the inside of my hand feel like? You can stop and check. See, yeah,
I
And so
like,
that's a neural pathway that can be created if you practice it enough. You could feel like because there's um, senses and nerves in the inside of your hand as well, so you should be able to feel what does the inside of my hand feel like.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really interesting as you say that, as you know, I'm doing this with you right now. I feel like the little vibration in my hand, and like,
Mhm.
that's always been there. Probably more than likely, I didn't just discover a new hand. Like, oh my god,
Right.
where did this come from? This has been a part of me. It's been attached to me. And the one thing that you said, a little while back, which was really interesting for me, is this space of acceptance. And
Mhm.
as coaches of color, as people of color in this world, not just United States, wherever,
Mhm.
I would love you to kind of touch on like how important it is for acceptance in for us in our space to do what we do as coaches, as consultants, as creators.
Mm-hmm. It's a big question.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm throwing
yeah.
I'm throwing out all the I'm throwing out
Yeah, yeah,
all the
yeah. And I'll again just, I'll share top of mind. Um, top of mind, top of heart. It's what's coming up for me is like the more that we can have acceptance of ourselves and our own processes and maybe where we are, as people of color in the society working as coaches. Um, I think that the greater the acceptance, the greater that we can show up for our clients for sure. Because I think a big part of learning about ourselves and growing and healing is acceptance. And so we can accept the hard shit that's happened in our lives, all that, and like work through that. Then when a client comes up and is sharing with us, oh, this hard thing happened to me, that's kind of similar to the same hard thing that happened to me because we both, grew up in the same society. Then if I've accepted that process and healed through that, then I can show up better for my client and like hold space. And, if I can hold space and be grounded and present with them, then I think that gives them a stronger chance to sit with that and work through that.
yeah, it's beautiful. And I love the look on the inverse, right? The opposite, bizarro side of things. Of like, have you come across people that are just, I don't want to say they're not lost, right? But they're resistant to it. Like
Mm-hmm.
a wall is there, and maybe what they say is, I want to accept, I want to forgive, I want to create some peace within myself so that I can, whatever ABC, whatever outcome it is. But
Mm-hmm.
there's the thing, right? They can't, they aren't able to break through. So what's, if you have that experience, like what has that been like for you, for working with them, that process to serve them the best that you can?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I would say patience is really important, taking it slow, and that there is like a broad, like acceptance is a spectrum. It's not just like, oh, okay, I accept this, this I don't know, thing that happened to me in the grocery store because half of my head is shaved or something. This look I got when someone walked by, I could tell. There's a difference between saying like, oh, whatever, I'm just not gonna think about that. Like that's one level to like, okay, let me sit and see what emotions came up and like sit with those and find peace with those. That's like a different part of the spectrum of acceptance. So I think with a client that has resistance, it's patience and like working through the deeper levels of acceptance. Starting, it's maybe, I don't know if simpler is the right word, but yeah, I think you know what I'm saying. But yeah, like starting a little bit more basic and like easier to grasp and understand, and then slowly moving to the deeper levels. And a lot of patience, a lot of compassion, and like meeting the client where they are. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you said exactly what I was just thinking, right? The big part
Mhm.
of our work as coaches, meeting people where they are, not For me, I'm a fast paced guy. I want to like get to things, but I recognize like, hey, some people gotta take it a little gentle, gotta take it a little easy, and build a new foundation because our programming. Some people can come from some backgrounds where, hey, I don't accept you because you follow this or you practice this kind of lifestyle or this is your sexual orientation, whatever, and then they're in a place of I don't know, jeez, I the people closest to me don't accept me, then they're gonna chase something
Yeah.
out there. Something out there has got to be way better than what's in here. And what I recognize from your work is that slow it down, connect to self, then everything else will start to align with your real identity, who you really are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You summed it up well.
That's me. It's the gift of words, man. I love it. you know, and I'm curious with you and what you see for your career in coaching. Like, what excites you about coaching?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Um, I mean, sitting with I mean, this isn't coaching right now, but even just having this conversation excites me for sure. And then sitting with a client, where we can both go inward and touch something deep and magical, that like special place. That was kind of talked about in our last um, networking call, BIPOC networking call, but touching that special place with a client and sitting there, that excites me. And I would say my vision, greater vision for the world, as a coach and what I want to put out there and create is, a world and communities where people are in touch with their bodies, where someone, is from the smallest task to the largest task. Like, okay, how am I, when I'm driving to work, how am I going to drive to work? Let me breathe and see how I feel before I start driving, and like connect
Hmm.
with that as I drive. To like, oh, I don't know, just had a child or something. Let me like connect with my body as I'm taking care of this child and like feel what emotions come up. Or I'm going to go visit my parents, on the flight. Let me take some time to breathe and feel what's coming up for me as I think about going to see my parents. How can I connect with them in a way that's aligned with my intentions? That's kind of my vision for a world. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting because in this, where we are right now, right, 2023, things are rapid fire, go, 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 go. And what I hear you do is you want to put people in the place of slow, slow, slow. Just
Mm,
not, and then it's not a place of people thinking like, man, I'm going to be lazy. I'm not going to get anything done. It's just, wait, be present to what's happening, what's really going on.
yeah, yeah. And it, just like you said, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. It could be, I'm going to sit down in my car before I turn the car on, or before I put it in drive. I'm just going to take 3 breaths. That's it. 3 breaths, feel my body. When I'm in the shower, I'm just going to take a couple breaths and feel the hot water on the shower. It can be really simple. When I lay down to go to sleep, I'm going to feel my body and say, okay, how did the day feel? What came up for me today? And then I go to sleep. It can be really simple, just little moments throughout the day that can be ingrained in us as check-in points.
Yeah. And to go back now into your story, into your life a little bit, what inspired you to look for this, right? Because I got to imagine, right? I don't know your life, but there had to be something that you're like, man, I'm feeling disconnected from myself or from people. Something's happening, and I need. I don't want to call it a solution because there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken, nothing to be fixed. But I
Mhm.
need. There's something missing right now. So if you can tell, you can kind of walk me through that. I think
Yeah.
audience would really get a lot of value from that too.
hmm Yeah, it's interesting. I think part of me is like, um, what's coming? Like 5 different paths to answer this question came up at once. But I think like interestingly enough, like even as a younger like teenager and stuff, I would do like body scans to help me sleep that kind of thing, like relaxing my body before I even knew anything about it. So I think I was kind of trying to tap into some kind of somatic thing as a young person, just naturally. So I think what that brings up for me is that some part of me is just aligned to do this work. I
Yeah.
think that's part of it. And then I would say what helped me really try to dive deep into this work is work with men. So men's work, men's groups.
Yeah.
And I started doing that kind of work, like maybe 6 years ago or so, or 6.5 years ago. Just joining a men's group. It's just a space where, people that identify as male can share deeply, vulnerably, and hold space with each other, right? And and then a few years after that, I started my own group, men's group, to like try to practice that. And I saw so much healing in that. And now I have a men's group through my business too. That's like dropping through my business. And to now circle back to your question, it's like sitting in these groups um, with other men in the space of like holding space and like listening to someone share. It's like, oh, I could listen to this person share something hard that happened in their life, right? And then I want to like empathize with them, but then I realized I couldn't. It's like, oh, I want to feel their sadness or just like connect with their story. And it felt like I was kind of numb, like here, I was just numb. There's some like wall, like you said, like I was numb. And so I was like, oh man, I really want to be able to connect with these people and to connect to my partner and my friends, in this real empathetic way. And so that was kind of one of my big drives of like, working on myself and, doing a lot of like self, like somatic meditative exercises to like really get in touch with my emotions. Yeah.
Yeah. It's powerful. And, as a man, right, that you threw out that dreaded word, the V word, the one that like, someone right now is listening like, oh man, I don't want to talk about that. That is scary. Can we fast forward this? But vulnerability, I mean, whew, can you tell
Yeah.
me about that? Like, what have you experienced as far as like a transformation with yourself and what you've seen with other people as they open up, right? And not for the sake of like getting attention. And I don't mean that in like, oh, I'm only doing it. Like, what I mean is, hey, I'm really sharing. This isn't for me to get a like. This isn't for me to for someone to buy into it. I'm just sharing. I need to release it. I need to get it off my chest because it's the weight, right? It's
Yeah, right.
crushing. It's
Oh yeah,
crushing.
for sure. Yeah. That is one of the things that when I say with clients, a lot of times they're like, I just have a weight on my shoulder, weight on my chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say vulnerability as related to men's work is something that I think about and work on a lot with people and in my groups that I run. And the reason I thought about this a lot, and the reason that I think it's so powerful, work with men, is that, like you said, it's the dreaded V word. And so, in general, I'm going to say a few generalizations here,
Yeah.
but in general, as conditioned men, it's hard for men to be vulnerable with anyone. And then in general, it's harder for men to be vulnerable with other men, right? It's like, oh, let's just like bro out and watch football or something, not talk about anything serious. That's, these are generalizations. But because of that, then when we're like when we put ourselves into that space of intentional, like let's share deeply about the hard shit in our lives, that um that then it leads to greater healing, it leads to openness. So if men can be vulnerable with other men in these groups where could be the hardest for them, then it's so much easier to do it in the rest of our lives. Then I could share my stories with my partner or my other friends more easily when I can do it in this situation that's really hard. And so that's kind of what I have to say, is that like pushing our comfort zones in terms of vulnerability in whatever way that looks for someone makes it a lot easier to do it like naturally in the rest of one's life.
Yeah. Well said. Yeah. You shared a couple times about your partner. Tell me about how your partner has helped you grow, expand in your work with young
Mm.
men and just in life in general? Like how has that made a difference?
Wow. Yeah, good question. I've never been asked that. Well, maybe I have, but not in this context. Yeah, good question. So my partner, her name is Natalie Campos. She's a psychologist actually, so she does therapy with people one-on-one. And yeah, so much, so many ways, but we're both kind of on a similar path for sure around like the way like we want to grow in terms of ourselves. So like, we both meditate together, do yoga together, go to retreats together. So all of that, like it's like a symbiotic like multiplication, like your healing is my healing is your healing, but like hypercharged because we're just doing it all together, So it's like yeah, yeah, so like, I'll go sometimes I'll do like a course, whatever, a course on something, a somatic course by myself, and then I'll go and share with that about her, and she learns and grows from that. And then she'll do a course and share about it with me, or we'll do something together. So it feels like our interests are really aligned in how we show up for people, support people one on one and in groups. And we both do that work. And so because of that, it kind of like, it's like a fire that stokes itself or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other part I'll share about that is like my transition, from engineering to coaching, moving to that full time, just having her support in that and her wisdom and guidance because she's been doing therapy for many years. And so, just hearing about, if had a hard session, I can share it with her. Or if I'm having doubts about, this path I took, she reassures me, So yeah, all of that as well.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And I could, watching you, I love that because just hearing that, right? You start talking about her, like whole everything changed. Like, cause I feel you kind of really tap into love,
Hmm.
the respect and appreciation. And it's a great thing when you have somebody who is aligned with the same things, right? It'd be a really interesting relationship if he's like, hey, I'm gonna go meditate. Yeah, honey, I'm gonna go watch some football and drink some beers and
Yeah,
and maybe like shoot some guns. There's nothing wrong with that, but like, you know what I mean? It's a
totally,
different thing. Like, hey, I'm gonna go do whatever, something completely opposite. And so
totally.
it's great that you both create a life to share these interests and these opportunities with each other.
Yeah, we're very, very lucky and we recognize that for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. And this is one of the questions I love to throw out to people on the show is like, how did you find us, the BIPOC Coach Collective? Like, how did you stumble into our orbit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really luckily. So maybe 6 months ago or 6 months or so ago, or more than that, maybe. Whatever, some timeline ago. I started expanding my practice, and then I started that men's group through my coaching business that meets once a month. It's a drop-in men's group, so anyone can join at any time. But I started that and I like emailed that out to my network.
Yeah.
And someone in my network that took classes at Mindfulness Coaching School also, Latanya Wilkins.
Oh, Latanya. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
She's
Latanya.
amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah, she's everywhere. Latanya, get your hands out of the pot. Listen, it's not.
Yeah,
I'm always teasing
Latanya.
her. I'm like, she's everywhere. She's like,
Yeah.
it's like bird poop. She's just all over the place. She's everywhere.
Oh God. Um, but yeah, she emailed me back and was like, I think this community would really benefit from, you talking about this group or you joining this group, and this could be a good resource for you. And so I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. And that's when I started coming. And so I've been coming to every meeting since then. And yeah, that's how I initially joined. And I will say that it also came at a really pivotal time for me because I was starting to like branch out. I went down to part-time at my full-time job, and I was and also I'd finished my training, and so I was kind of like out on my own, like, oh man, figuring this out on my own. And then this community and seeing all these like amazing, passionate, successful BIPOC coaches really helps. Like every time it comes out there, like it's monthly, the networking calls, so it's like right when I'm starting to be like, what am I doing out here? You know, I'll join a call and be like, okay, yeah, no, okay, this is great. I'm doing the right thing. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah, you're on the right path. And for anyone listening who's on this entrepreneurial journey, it's yeah, it can get really cold out there, right? It's you, and I want to say it is like a battle, right? Like a battle of me against the world, but really it's you against you. You with the identity of, can I do this? Right? That's always the question. Like,
hmm
why am I doing this? Can I do this? Is this possible? And you have the people who are like, hey, start with why, all these different things. And I always look at, is my mission and my vision big enough that my clients can fit inside of it? It's
hmm
like my big dream, my big thing. Is it so scary, audacious, and ridiculous that other people are like, that seems kind of stupid, but I'm in on it. I like where it's going, and they magnetize, they attract to it. So you're in this place, you're in this space for a reason too, right? To make a difference, to serve people, and having people with their bodies, right? That's a huge thing. It's huge because we go through life kind of airplane mode default, and what happens if we slow down? Just a tad, just a tad, just a smidge,
Smidge. Yep.
just a smidge, just a little bit.
hmm
So I want to salute you and honor you for the work that you do, the work you're going to continue to do, because it's needed, it's necessary. So if you ever have a moment that you like, man, I don't think I got it. Like, play this back, play these last 30, 45 seconds back, and just rewind that over and over, because that's what's going to take to create, right? Just keep on creating, keep connecting, keep making a difference. Those are my 2 cents. This is not coaching. This is my 2 cents of advice right now. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
keep
Thank you.
connecting.
Thank you. Yeah. That's what I need to remember is like keep putting energy into it with, good intention and like every day put a little bit of energy with the good intention. And I think it'll just keep flowing. Yeah. That's my plan or my goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I call it the T time, TEA, time, energy, and attention.
Mm,
And wherever that has happened for me, whatever I wanted has been created. And the thing that you said was really interesting, the good intentions, because I've had that where I've used that for negativity. Like,
mm,
man, I want to be angry. I'm gonna be mad. I'm
mm.
I'm focused on all the things that are wrong in life, and sure enough, I keep getting more of the wrong things. How does this happen? Damn it! like,
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
oh, silly. My lens. I need to see what's going on, what's real, and what's real is helping people, making a difference, being with myself, being secure with myself, and knowing that I am who I am, faults and all. Be proud of it, accept it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally agree. Yeah.
This is awesome. And before we start to wrap up, I want to ask you: is there anything that we haven't said, or that you haven't shared, or anything you haven't expressed yet that you would like to?
hmm is this a place where I should share maybe a little bit more about the workshop's gonna be, or should we just, is that?
Yeah, share a little bit. I'm gonna give away. No, this is the trailer, folks. This might be what I'm using for the trailer here.
Just quick tad bit, but we talked about somatic working, connecting with our bodies. And so, it's going to be a very experiential workshop because I think, I'll share a little bit about background and why somatic experience is important and acceptance piece and all that. And then we'll spend a large part just doing it. And so the way it will be done is, I think it's important to feel something is to have an experience that brings up a feeling, and then we can go in and feel the feeling, if that makes sense. I might be getting a little meta, but so it will just be this experience where we'll break out into pairs and do a little connection exercise with a partner. And then we'll come back and I'll be like, okay, now let's all close our eyes and feel our bodies. And, how did it feel to connect with that partner? How did it feel to share, to listen? What emotions are coming up? And just sitting with that with, compassion and acceptance. And then we'll like keep doing that process of connecting with someone and then feeling our bodies. And then like, so that we can leave with like having a real experience, and people can leave with like, oh, okay, so that's what, joy felt like, or that's what,
Mm.
this thing felt like in my body, or that's what confusion felt like. And then at the end, I'll leave everyone with, and we'll have some time to check in and people can, share their experiences. And at the very end, I'll leave people with, a few simple somatic practices they can do, take home with them. Really simple, like I said, start your car and take a few breaths.
That is awesome. That is all going down June 9th. That's a Friday, from 12 to 1:30 ish. And this is going to be for members only. So if you want to get down, if you want to experience this with Jonathan, then go to bipoccc.org and find your way into our land. And with coaching and also with this subset of work that you do, you said the magic word, experiential, right? I love sharing the context, right? That's what people walk away with, and they don't forget that, like what we did earlier. My hand, I'm not going to forget that my hand is here and it feels things. If I try to share it in a concept, like, hey, your hand feels things, I'm like, get out of here, wacko.
Yeah.
Like, do I need to call somebody? Do they need to like put you in a padded room because you're talking crazy? Like, I don't have time to feel. I'm there, damn it. I'm feeling angry right now. And right,
Mm-hmm.
then to slow down, like, well, where's the anger coming from? What's the real anger? What's the real feeling behind that? Like, oh, there's something else. There's always a layer, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like you can feel the thing, and then like, what does your body need right in that moment? I think that's important. Yeah.
That's a great question. What does your body need? Oof. Yeah. For you listening right now, or you watching, maybe that's a great way to just tap in real quick. Like, what does your body need? What is it saying to you that you're ignoring?
Mhm.
And not to make you wrong, it's just, hey, what have you not noticed?
And then feeling that with acceptance, not judgment, just listening to whatever comes up.
Yeah, powerful stuff. If anyone wants to learn more about you, connect with your work, where should we go?
Yes, my website is JFG, which is my initials, JFG coaching.co, not .com. .com was taken. so, so JFG coaching.co.
Hey, whoever has got that .com, we're coming for it. Give it
I
up
know
now.
it's not even being used. So I have, my information on there, a little bit about what I do in my background. And then I also have some guided meditations that I've recorded myself on there if anyone wants to, practice on their own, like a grounding meditation, loving kindness, a somatic meditation. So yeah, if anyone wants to look into those.
It's incredible. Thank you so much. And I'll speak on behalf of the leadership team and the other members, right? We're just honored that you're a part of this movement, that you contribute so much every time we see you on the calls. You just bring that really warm presence. I don't know if it's like the aura thing, right? Like, whatever. It's the thing that you got. It's the intangible. So I
Mm,
just want to thank you, honor you for who you are, who you're being in the world, and the work you do. It's valuable, and thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for having me and for trusting me to, have this workshop and have me on this podcast. Yeah, it's been really fun.
Sure, man. If it's not fun, it doesn't get done.
Yes.
That's how I by the way. So all that said and done, for you watching, you listening, please tap in for this episode, share with people, leave a review, leave a comment, and I would encourage you to come join June 9th. That's a Friday. We're going to be talking about openness and connection with somatic awareness, and Jonathan Gutierrez is going to be bringing it, and you're going to bring out yourselves as well. So tap in for the next episode next month. See you soon.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks for watching this episode. If you got value from this, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. And feel free to connect with us at bipoccc.org. See you next time.